What's up, everyone out there in YouTube world, Facebook world, social media of the world? Welcome to another episode of Musings of MGL. I'm your host, MGL. So today we're going to talk about something that I'm seeing a whole lot of locally in my area, and that is Joe Biden's war on FFLs, okay? In case you haven't heard, Joe Biden instructed the ATF to basically have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to FFL violations. So, quick little rundown. If you own an FFL, there's a whole bunch of rules and regulations that you have to follow in order to maintain your FFL license. And every FFL is subject to a yearly audit by the ATF. So the ATF can just call you, they make an appointment, they come to the shop, and they go through all of your records. They can ask questions, et cetera, and they're allowed to do that at least once a year to make sure that you're in compliance with all their rules and regulation. Well, the policy used to be, I don't want to use the word lax or whatever, but basically it wasn't a zero tolerance policy. What they wanted was compliance. So if they came into your shop and they found that you violated with a couple of technicalities, et cetera, they would basically have a little meeting with you and they tell you, look, this is what you need to do to fix it. Don't let it happen again. Maybe they put a little written thing on there. Sometimes they'll do a fine or whatever, but then they would just go about your business. They let you reopen back up, and maybe they come back in a few more years and double check to make sure that you've made the changes that you said you were going to make. That is what always used to happen in the past. They only went to revocation when it's something really serious. If you had a gun shop that had a flagrant history of multiple violations in the past, they had meetings with them, told them what to fix. They said, sure, we'll fix it. And then they came back in a couple of years, they hadn't fixed it. And we're talking serious violations like letting guns go home with people who are prohibited people, not logging multiple firearm sales that happen at the same time, like really serious stuff. For the ticky-tacky paper stuff, they never cared. Well, under the Biden administration, that has completely changed. They have implemented this zero tolerance policy, and now FFLs are getting revocation letters for basically everything. First time offenses, ticky-tacky technical stuff, they are pretty much just revoking people's FFLs left and right. I've seen it here locally where I live. There's a few shops that have gone out of business. I know of a bunch of other shops around the state of Florida who have gotten revocation letters and are having to go through all these serious audits. So they are playing no business. And so I'm going to show you here that they ain't fucking around. So here's an article from our good friends over at Truth About Guns. And it basically lays out what's going on right now with the administration. Here it is right there in the headline. The ATF revoked 500% more federal firearms licenses in 11 months since Biden declared war on guns. So their revocation of FFLs is up 500%. 500%. I'm telling you, I've seen it firsthand. They're trying to revoke these people left and right. In the years before the Biden-Harris administration took over the White House, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives usually revoked an average of 40 FFLs per year. But in the 11th months since Joe Biden declared war on, quote, rogue gun dealers, the ATF has revoked 273 FFLs, an increase of more than 500%. However, rather than targeting the true rogues, Biden's ATF is revoking FFLs for the most minor of paperwork errors, which were never a concern for the ATF until Biden weaponized the agency. This has nothing to do with the ATF and everything to do with the DOJ, said John Clark of FFL Consultants. Clark is a firearm industry expert who said the ATF announced the number of revocations at a recent firearm industry conference. The vast majority of the ATF don't like this any more than the industry does, he said. It's Biden. Clark and business partner John Brucker crisscrossed the country to help gun dealers, etc., Get it right the first time. Our goal is to prevent an incident from occurring. Our goal is prevention. So, key to the massive increase in revocations is Biden's zero tolerance for willful violations policy, which Clark said relies upon a new definition of willful. If a dealer makes a simple mistake, they can now lose their license because the new definition of willful states that the dealer knew the law but willfully chose to violate it anyway, regardless of whether it was an oversight, an error by an employee, or a simple paperwork mistake. So there you have it. So yes, Joe Biden has declared war on FFL. So if you own an FFL out there, you are put on notice, and they're trying to put everybody on notice that you got to button up your stuff and tighten up your stuff. And again, this applies to everybody that works for you. So you have an employee who makes a simple mistake, forgets to write a date on an FFL form, or doesn't waits 2 business days instead of 3, et cetera. Even, again, something as simple as a paperwork mistake where you have a wrong serial number or something like that. Those may sound like serious things, and they shouldn't happen. Everybody should have a button-up way to do it. There's all kinds of software these days that help you make sure that you maintain that your stuff. But everybody makes mistake. There's no such thing as an infallible company or an infallible industry. And so when you used to make a mistake, they would tell you, hey, here's how you fix it. Don't make it again. But not anymore. Now they're coming for your license. So if you're an FFL, you need to make sure that you are doing everything that you can to do this. I've seen FFLs get them revoked. I've seen them appeal up to the DCAs, which is what the process is. You go to federal court, and I've seen the federal courts. I've read numerous cases where the federal courts are upholding these because it basically says, it is a pretty broad statute that says for any willful violation, it can be as little as one willful violation, they can revoke your license. Having an FFL is a privilege. It's not a right. So basically, if they find one violation, the statute does allow them to revoke it as long as they can prove it's willful. As it said there, what's happening is they've really expanded the definition of willful. Willful used to be, look, if you did it the first time and got a mistake, they had the little conference and said, look, this is what you need to do going forward. Don't do it again. And you say, okay. They come back 2 years later and you did it again. Then they would say, look, that's obviously willful because we told you last time what you needed to do, so you can't claim ignorance. Now they're claiming ignorance, or now they're not letting you claim ignorance or mistake from the very beginning. They're basically saying you knew all the rules when you got your FFL, so any violation that you do by definition is a willful. Therefore, they're going to revoke your license. And I have seen DCAs uphold that. So they are out for blood on these things. So if you have an FFL, make sure you button up your ship and make sure you cut down on those mistakes, because it's going to be a problem. And if you do get a revocation letter, there are lots of lawyers out there. You know, I help out FFLs all the time, and so do a lot of other lawyers out there. Google, you need to find yourself a lawyer to help represent you through your revocation. Maybe even get one all the way back at the beginning when you get your audit, just to make sure everything goes smoothly. So there you have it. Local update on Biden's war on guns, and now they're coming after the gun makers or sellers because they think that's easier than going after the gun owners. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, share the video out there. I really appreciate it. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay vigilant, and as always, carry on.